Today on the High Republic Show, we're sitting down with Cavan Scott, Rob Simpson, and Ario Anindito to take a deep dive into the comic books of the High Republic. Take a closer look at the lightsabers of this new era. Plus, I'll show you how we made this Marchion Ro helmet of my very own. Plant those Drengir roots of yours firmly into the floor because Star Wars, the High Republic Show, starts right now!
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice.
What's going on out there, friends in internet land? It's me, your virtual Star Wars buddy, Krystina Ario, back once again for your bi-monthly dose of High Republic goodness, which is part of a balanced Star Wars diet. Eat your greens, kids, especially if they're Drengir. Is it still considered vegan if it's Drengir? These are the questions that keep me up at night. Anyway, since we last saw each other, a lot has gone down in the High Republic comics. So let's take a look at how the latest events fall under our ever-expanding timeline. The Jedi are trapped by Drengir tendrils on the planet Sedri Minor when they learn that Jedi Master Skiers willingly let the Drengir bond with his body. But why? Simple, my dear meat. To feed. Back at the Starlight Beacon, Emery and Vernestra are poking at the Hutt carcass with the Starlight's archivist, when suddenly it moves. Because it's infested with Drengir tendrils bursting out of its body. Suddenly, reports from across the frontier emerge that the Drengir are popping up all over the galaxy. Meanwhile, on the Gaze Electric, there's a gladiator-style brawl which Krix and Tromac must survive. Why? Because Tromac has information that Marchion Ro wants but won't give up. Krix, knowing there's an opportunity to save his own skin, turns on Tromac and in turn, really impresses Marchion Ro. Now back on Sedri Minor, it looks as if Keeve, Avar, and the twins are about to become plant food. When all of a sudden, Skier hones the Force and his newfound bond with the Drengir to control the villainous plants long enough for the Jedi to break free and destroy them. But wait, there's more. Just as the Jedi uprooted their attackers, a mysterious ship arrives filled with armored rancors and Hutts. Star Wars. Avar Kriss calls for reinforcements as the Jedi battle with the Rancor and the Hutts. But the Starlight Beacon has problems of their own. The Drengir are taking root on the space station too. Great. Elsewhere on the junk moon of Quanxi, Marchion Ro and Krix are hunting down a lost artifact. But it won't be so easy for the Nile because Yoda, buckets of blood, and a whole fleet of Jedi starfighters are on their tail. And after an excruciating skirmish on Sedri, the Jedi recruit the locals to help fight off the Hutts and the Rancors. Soon they all realize the Drengir are a much larger threat and must join forces to fight together. But it may be too late. Thanks to a Jedi link with Skier, they've learned that while they may have won the battle, the Drengir have ceded the entire frontier and are ready for a reign of chaos. Where will the Drengir take root in next? How will the Jedi defeat this ever-growing evil? What does Yoda's famous recipe for baked goods actually taste like? We're just gonna have to wait a few more weeks to find out. The High Republic, y'all. It's full of more questions than answers, and that's why I love it. For buckets of blood literally trying to finish a mission before his biscuits burn in the oven, to Skier momentarily breaking from the Drengir's hold on his mind, the High Republic comics have brought us exciting adventures and memorable characters. And speaking of memorable characters, I'm joined by memorable characters from all over the world. I would like to welcome our special guest, Cavan Scott from the UK, Ario Anindito from Indonesia, and from Oakland, Robert Simpson. So as we're discussing the High Republic comics today, I'd like to start with a couple of questions about comic creation. Rob, as one of the editors that handles these sorts of things, about how long does it usually take to create a comic from inception to the hands of the public?
The overall planning for the High Republic's been going on for several years, so there have been general conversations about a lot of the storylines for much longer, but each individual issue from start to finish is probably about 3 months.
To follow that up, Cavan, much like a movie, so much of comic creation starts with the script. So now that we're 5 issues into this run, how long does it take you to create the script as you get more comfortable with your understanding of who the characters are?
Well, it becomes easier as you work with the team as well, and I think it's not so much the team on the page, but it's also working with Ario now. So when we started, obviously, we'd only just start working together. So I was having to explain what's going on in my head, which is always a problem, and asking Ario to create it on the page. Now we've got a shorthand between us, so we know how each other thinks, which is terrifying in so many ways. And so it's become easier to write as we go on, because not only are we getting to know the characters, we're getting to know the entire team.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. Ario, How long does it
Yes.
usually take you to illustrate a comic panel, such as one that features, I don't know, like a diseased hut exploding with Drangir tendrils?
That's a very good question. I try to keep my pace like 1 pages a day. Keeps the doctor away, yeah.
The doctor's staying away because this stuff looks great.
Thank you so much.
How long have you been penciling?
Professionally, I started in 2012, but I've been drawing since I was 6 years old, so it's been a while.
I'm glad you kept at it because now we have these great works to look at. Now, Cavan, you've mentioned in prior interviews that it was the 70s Marvel Comics run that got you into Star Wars. So, as a storyteller, how do you feel that your personal history with Star Wars affects the way that you approach these stories, especially when you're being tasked with adding to the lore that you already love?
I think you think back to those moments where you turn a page and you're just presented with this incredible scene, and you want to recapture that moment when you're writing. And what I love about those early Marvel issues is that it was a time where all bets were off. They were just literally making stuff up all the time because all they had is one film and that was it. And with the High Republic, what we've got is a time period when actually, again, all bets are off. We don't really know what the High Republic era is like. So it's been really liberating in the similar kind of way that I can imagine it was in those earlier days, that we can do anything because we haven't got to fit in between different stories because this is the story.
And Robert, for you, what is your personal Star Wars connection?
I can remember seeing the first movie in the movie theaters in 77 growing up and just being blown away by it. It was like nothing else I'd ever seen before. And as far as the way that intersected with my comics journey, I started at Marvel Comics when I was 16, back in 1982. And one of my very first jobs was erasing the extra pencil lines on the adaptation of Return of the Jedi. Al Williamson would bring the pages in, and as an intern, one of the things that we had to do was clean up the pages for being photographed. So, it's just been a part of my life, my professional life, for as long as I can remember.
I love to hear full circle moments from all of you because as a fan myself, to be sitting in this spot is huge. And I think sometimes you wonder if people start to take it for granted after a while, but the excitement that you see from you guys when you talk about your Star Wars story is a part of why we love this so much and why we get to be this big happy Star Wars family. So thank you for sharing that with me. And Ario, it's gonna keep coming back to the Drangir. It's who I am as a person. As an artist, what kind of direction did you receive when being asked to draw the evil adjacent sentient plant monster, the Drangir?
I love horror creatures, I love monsters, and especially in Star Wars, so I got the concept art for the Drangir and I just have to make it scary and menacing in the pages, and that's what I like to do. Cavan knows that so well.
In issue 4, we're introduced to the Hutt Cartel. Cavan, can you tell us a little about what we can expect from them moving forward?
How do I answer that without explaining everything that happens? You get to see Hutts moving a lot, which is something I really wanted to do. And again, it comes back to those early moments. My first Star Wars movie in the cinema was Empire, but it was Return that blew me away, and it was all to do with Jabba's palace. It was just that moment where there are so many aliens, there are so many monsters, and they're so weird. And you've got this slug thing in the middle. But I always became obsessed with the idea that, these are warlords. These are creatures that have massive power, and not just because they're big and bulky and intimidating, because they can be scary. We are seeing the beginning of a long history of the Hutts in the High Republic. This is literally only the pre-title sequence to what's going to happen with the Hutts. We're going to see them, being active, being out there, and being in people's face.
Ooh, in their face in what way? Wink, wink, spoilers, huh?
I'm not going to say a word.
All right, keep it in the vault, it's fine. Now, Ario, one of the things that I truly loved, there's a panel with Avar Kriss in issue 1 where you see her shock and surprise when Yoda walks in the room. What's your process for creating that emotion?
Creating the right emotions into the visual is very important for me, and I try to put myself into the characters. Fortunately, Cavan gave me chances to draw splash pages of her being in action, and so we got to see how great she is. What makes Keeve starstruck when she saw Avar Kriss. Basically, I just need to put myself into each characters with different emotion role-playing, if you can call that, yeah.
I really enjoyed that answer. Thank you very much. Robert, there are currently 2 High Republic comic runs, IDW's High Republic Adventures and Marvel's Star Wars The High Republic. So what goes into creating the continuity that makes these stories complementary and not competitors?
It's a lot of teamwork, it's a lot of constant conversation, and that's probably among the things that I enjoy most about working on this, is that we all pour in our ideas and we all pour in our understanding that once the idea starts moving, we have to keep a careful eye on it, make sure that we don't contradict one another. But also, as Cavan was saying, it's a brand new playing field. So making sure that the stories don't contradict each other isn't as hard as you might imagine. It's a lot of teamwork, a lot of conversations, a lot of really fun surprises as we go along.
What's one character in the High Republic that makes you feel as excited as a new Star Wars fan falling in love for the first time? We're going to start with you, Cav.
Skier. Always Skier. His role in this was never going to be as big as it now is. Up to the day before I submitted the first issue, he wasn't Keeve's master. In fact, that first issue wasn't the first issue. I wrote an entirely different issue where Keeve has another master. And then I didn't like that one, so I threw that away and I started again and we came to the issue we have. But even then, they weren't master and Padawan. The moment that penny dropped, that was the moment where the High Republic comic really started to gel for me. And their journey forward from that point is the thing that gets me excited about this project day in, day out, because there are so many great things that are going to happen in Keeve's life, and they pretty much all come back to her quite paternal relationship with her master, and then obviously what happens to him afterwards.
Rob, what character are you most excited about in the High Republic?
I guess Keeve. I mean, there's so much of discovering a new world, discovering her new abilities and her new responsibilities. And, you know, you were describing that moment of her seeing Avar walk in the room and just the idea of still being able to be surprised, still being able to be awestruck by these amazing people around her. I find that exciting, and just watching her journey throughout the story.
I also love Keeve Trennis. I mean, she's just so much fun to explore, and it feels like I am exploring with her along the way.
Keeve was there in our first week of planning the High Republic at the ranch, and she's been central to my part of the High Republic and my journey within it right from the beginning. When I was asked to write the Marvel series, I knew she had to be the core of it. And the great thing about Keeve is we know exactly where she's going. We know where her story ends. And so every moment in that comic, and every moment in other appearances as well, is all leading to that point. And that's really exciting as a creator to see.
It's very interesting because when I draw Keeve, it feels like she's alive. I don't know how, but it feels like my hands is moving by itself and she has her own expression, and it's magical when I draw Keeve.
That's really powerful to hear how much you guys actually are invested in these characters and what they mean to you. And for me, I think that's absolutely beautiful, and what you all are creating is fantastic. So today we've been talking primarily about comics. What would you say to someone that wanted to get into writing comic books about the process?
First of all, you have to make sure that you're having fun. That's the most important of all. And then you have to use your imagination as if you are living in that world, because when you imagine that you are in that planet, you get to draw whatever you have in your mind. And I think that adds to the realism of the universe, especially in Star Wars comics, because we don't get to draw like New York City or Indonesia or any other real place. We draw imaginary places, and we have to make sure it looks real by putting yourself in that world, in that universe.
And even if you can't draw as a writer, you know, just start sketching out and thinking about how pages could look. You can have 10 cliffhangers an issue because you always have that turn of the page. So think about those moments. Think about how you can stop people in their tracks when they're reading.
Definitely just get started. Feel comfortable just jumping in and doing it, you know, and feel comfortable at failing. You're not going to be perfect right out the gate. Don't feel ashamed of, you know, drawing or writing something and tossing it out, starting over. Show it to people, and if they like it or don't like it, you know, take that feedback and run with it. So it's just a constant state of learning and growing to feel open to, I think.
This has been so much fun. I want to say thank you again to Cavan Scott, Robert Simpson, and Ario Anindito for joining us for the High Republic show. Thank you guys so much.
The lightsaber has been called an elegant weapon for a more civilized age. And never before has that quote been more apt than when describing the exquisitely ornate hilts adorned by the Jedi of the High Republic. The green glow of Jedi Master Avar Kriss' saber is only accentuated by its elegant gold and silver crossguard on top of its long silver hilt. The emitter and end cap also have golden accents to complete the look of her beautiful and powerful saber. Keeve Trennis also yields a green saber. However, both of her identical green hilts can combine to create a dual-bladed weapon. The powerful Wookiee Jedi Burryaga has a saber befitting of his stature. The carved wooden hilt sports a leather-wrapped handle blocked by luxurious golden crossguard, which gives way to his blue saber. Jedi Padawan Bel Zetifar's green saber contains a golden, cone-shaped emitter with a silver switch and hilt, and a black and golden end cap. Another Padawan, Reath Silas, also has a green lightsaber, but his hilt has a green crystal embedded in the hilt, surrounded by gold that extends from the emitter to the end cap. Lula Talisola has a more understated hilt, with a segmented silver and black grip, solid metal end cap, and blue blade. And although he may be small, Jedi Master Yoda's tiny saber should not be underestimated. Ram Jamaram's yellow blade emits from a segmented hilt with golden accents that complement the saber color. Vernestra Rowe's saber is unique in that its purple blade can also double as a light whip, making her a formidable foe when going against the Nihil or escaping from a jungle planet. The Trandoshan Jedi Master Skier's blue lightsaber has a knuckle guard extending off of the top of his gold and bronze saber, as well as a red emitter button. Jedi Knight Orla Jareni's lightsaber is unique. Not only are the blades bright white, but her dual-bladed lightsaber hinges out in the middle, making it into a staff for battling foes. And speaking of unique sabers, Stellan Gios's blue lightsaber has a gilded crossguard, which hinges open to reveal two beams of blue light. Comac Vitus's blue saber extends from a decorative golden emitter down the back handle that curves into unique golden accented end cap. Ty Yorik's aggressive saber emits from a sharp, spiked end cap, which may be just as dangerous as the purple blade itself. For more information about your favorite High Republic Jedi and lightsabers, make sure to check out StarWars.com/The High Republic.
Welcome back! This wasn't here last time I saw you. I wonder what's under this elegant silk drape. It's Marky Rose helmet! Pew, 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 pew. So I'm gonna stare into the eye of this, and you guys can go watch a fan-made video about how this was made while I just kinda, this is so cool!
Hey, my name is Gordon Tarpley. I am a prop builder and maker of things. I've had the opportunity to work on projects such as Jedi Temple Challenge. I made the 83 droid and performed the 83 droid. I've worked on the R3A3 droid. It's turned up on various shows. When Star Wars The High Republic was first announced, there were so many neat designs that were from this new era. It's the height of the Jedi, so everything is so much newer and more elegant. There's just so much more detail and it's much cleaner. And I just knew when I saw Marky and Rowe that I would really like to make a real version of this helmet. Having a chance to work on Marky and Rowe was pretty exciting because the fact that it's the main bad guy from the new era of Star Wars and being able to bring a character that people have only read about or maybe seen in comic books is very appealing process to me. This helmet took about 45-50 hours. I started out with some concept artwork from Jeff Thomas, and I brought that into a program called ZBrush, which is a digital sculpting program, and I started blocking the shapes based on his drawings. He gave me very clean front, side, and rear drawings to use as reference, and basically 3D modeled all the parts, broke them up, and 3D printed everything, and then did a lot of finishing work to make it not look like a 3D printed part. The difference between making a new helmet that's never really been done before versus a replica of something else, I feel like the replicas take a lot longer and are much more difficult because it's very easy to niddle the details forever. Whereas with a new one, since I'm doing all the work, I don't have to worry about those things. I just try to make it look as much like the artwork as possible. So it's kind of up to me, so the process is faster. The one thing that was really tricky and nearly impossible to do practically was the eye of the storm. If you were going to do this in film, they would probably use a special effects to recreate this. So for this one, we did a light behind it, and there's some elements on the inside that cast some shadows onto the diffused eye lens portion to kind of cheat the effect a little bit. As a lifelong Star Wars fan, the fact that I've been able to work on so many Star Wars things and be involved at this level has been a wonderful experience for me, and I can't wait to work on more in the future.
That is why I love you. Oh, you're back. Sorry, I was just having a moment with the helmet. Here, let me put this someplace safe so I can finish the show less distracted than I am right now. Plus, it's really gonna help with scaring my dogs so they don't bark in the middle of the shoot because we're in my garage! Showbiz, baby! Now it's time to answer your THRS questions. And with me this time is one of the many illustrators for the High Republic, artist Jeffrey Thomas. Hello, Jeffrey.
How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. So here's the question I have for you this month. Isaac Brown asked, what was the challenge in creating the lightsaber designs of the High Republic era and making them different from future eras?
That's a really good question. One of the biggest challenges was making sure that the lightsabers we designed could stand next to other lightsabers in the Star Wars saga, making sure that any High Republic lightsaber, when put up against Darth Maul or Luke Skywalker's, would still feel iconic to that certain character, but at the same time evoke the period of the High Republic. We treated the Jedis of this era like the Knights of the Round Table. And so for Stellan, we referenced Excalibur as a starting point, and we knew that we wanted to incorporate crossguards. We made it so the beams of the crossguard were actually held within the crossguard itself, so his hand or his body wouldn't come in contact with the crossguard blade. So when people see the lightsabers, they'll immediately know which era of Star Wars they came from and who it belonged to.
Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey. And now my assumptions about Stellan's saber have been proven true. It's both fun and functional. And if you have questions poking at your brain like Skier with this plant spear arm thingy, hit us up online using the hashtag THRSQuestions and we might just answer your question during our next episode in July. However, before we go, it's High Republic Show exclusive reveals time! Next month, we'll be ready to dive into Cavan Scott's brand new novel, The Rising Storm, when it hits store shelves on June 29th. But today, we've got your very first look at the special edition cover from Target. The cover features Stellan Gios, Bel Zettifar, Elzar Mann, and Dira Stokes all holding their ignited sabers in the air, while Ember the Charhound looms above them on the rock. And speaking of Target, there's also an exclusive cover available for Justina Ireland's Out of the Shadows hitting on July 27th. Now this Target exclusive features a beautiful cover of a particularly intimidating Nihil baddie. But if you want even more Nihil on your Out of the Shadows cover, you'll want to pick up your copy at Walmart with an exclusive cover featuring the Nihil and Lorna Dee. For more on The Rising Storm and Out of the Shadows, check out StarWars.com/The High Republic. Finally, we're very excited to announce an all-new Marvel miniseries coming this fall, Star Wars The High Republic Trail of Shadows, a detective story set in motion following the events of the Republic Fair, as seen in Cavan Scott's upcoming book, The Rising Storm. Trail of Shadows, written by Daniel Jose Older, centers on Jedi Emmerich Kaftor, who's tasked with investigating a strange mystery following the shocking events of the Republic Fair that has ties to the Jedi Order. Simultaneously, Chancellor Lena So enlists Cyan Holt, an in-demand, high-end private detective, to solve the same crime. But can either of them crack the case before more people die? You'll just have to read it for yourself when Trail of Shadows hits store shelves this fall. And so ends another fun-filled episode of the High Republic Show. We'll be back in July with another jam-packed episode. And as always, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.